Alex Hormozi is one of the most successful business owners in the personal branding area and has made over 105 million off one book launch, breaking the world record. And one of the reasons he was able to do that is because of the content he posted in the last 7 years. As someone who is creating content system for several 7- to 8-figure info businesses and coaches, I was genuinely curious what he has to say about creating content. Throughout the video, we are going to watch some of Alex Hormozi's videos about creating content, and then we'll break down on how to actually apply that to our own content. Because the issue is, yes, Alex Hormozi drops a lot of value, but at the same time, it's so much value in a short period of time that you think you're being productive, but at the end of the day, you're not really able to implement any of these things he says, but also because it's a little bit surface-based level.
I would say if I had to only pick one, I would pick power, and I'll explain why. Power comes from something in the behavioral dynamics world called say-do correspondence. What that means is, if I say something and then you do it, and then a good thing occurs, a reinforcing event happens afterwards, you are more likely to comply with a following request.
Yes, so this is a very important point he said here, and as it is not in context, I'm just going to break it down for you a little bit. What he basically says is that it's super important to actually make sure that you are providing actionable value inside your content, especially in short form content. Because the easier it is for a viewer to understand what you are saying and what value you're giving off and how to actually implement it, the more likely they are going to resonate what you said with a good thing. And if they see that if you are telling them something and they do it and something good occurs, that's gonna build a habit of them following whatever you say them. And it's very important, for example, when you're having a CDA or when you want to tell your viewer to do something in order to get him closer to buy. For example, commenting, and for example, watching YouTube video, whatever it is, it's super important to actually make sure that your value isn't just surface level and not implementable, but actually actionable. And so you maybe have already made a video where you had a CDA at the end and you thought, why is nobody commenting on this video? And it's probably because they didn't see the value in commenting. And it's because they don't see the value in the video that you already provided. And also the time they invested into your video hasn't made sense for it. So that's really important to actually make your value as actionable as possible, to not just overload them. I mean, yes, you can do it in a free course or anything like that, but especially when you have content where people see the first time, it's really important to make sure that the first impression is good and that the value is actually implementable within I'd say 24 hours, and not oh, in 5 years you have to do this and this. No, you have to do this right now in order to get there. All right, and so the next thing we're watching is the power of stacking SPCL. Alex Hormozi talks about it all the time. SPCL stands for status, power, credibility, and likeliness. And now we're going to watch a part where he's talking about why it is so important to actually stack those things and tick them off for your checklist when you're creating a piece of content.
They all can work independently, but the idea is that you want all four to be stacked together. And this is what gives you the most influence, right? So any of these four on their own would give you influence. That bartender, if he just says that, he would have some level of influence. And I'll give you a different example of this. If a kid inherits money, right, they're going to have status, right? If you have money, even if you didn't earn it, even if you didn't anything, if you have money, you will have some degree of status because you control something other people want, period. That's how it works, all right? But would that kid who has money have the same status as a kid who has money who also gave you, 10 different crypto coin picks that all popped off, right? Well, if he gave you 10 different picks and you followed them and they all popped off, how much more influence would that person have over them saying, hey, you should put money in this, or hey, you should, give me money for XYZ, or whatever it is. Obviously, I'm talking money because I'm a business person first, but think about how much more influence version 2 would have with just 2 of those things versus version 1. That's the difference. But if you have all 4, that's when you become super Saiyan.
Super important thing. And that's exactly what I always talk about and also tell my clients: status, power, credibility, and likeliness. You have to pick a topic. You have to make sure that you're actually an authority, that you have credibility in it, that you can show some way of likeliness, and that you have some way of status. And so that's the thing, when you're talking about something that you don't know shit about. All right, if you talk about something that you don't know about anything, just because it's trendy or viral, it won't bring you anything, and you won't be able to actually check off those things. All right, you don't have to check them off all the time, but at least 3 things you have. But at least I would say try to check off 3 things. And so you all know those guys. You maybe have seen a fitness coach who is a little bit overweight, and they talk about how to get a six-pack. And the way they position in the content makes them less like a authority and less likely to get views because they don't have those things. And so it's really important to actually make sure that when you're creating content, to talk about things that you actually know about, or at least get into an angle. Because the truth is, I'm also not the biggest personal brand, all right? But I also work with personal brands and I built their infrastructure. And because I have a lot of case studies, I can leverage on them. And I can show you guys that I've done it for other people in your business. But I'm not saying I'm a personal branding coach, and it has a big reason for it, all right? Because somebody who's a big, or let's say if there's a personal branding coach out there and there's another personal branding coach out there and one has more followers than the other one, obviously the one with the more followers, unless they're like bought it, will have more chance to actually check up those things. And so that's why it's so important to actually talk about things that you know shit about, or at least get into an angle where you're seen as an authority. And that's also a very interesting thing. That's also why I even had this offer of like having a content system where we have, like a clipping team that actually clips up the content. Because if somebody would just read off a script, all right? If somebody would just read off a script, he would lose a lot of authority, credibility, because it's like so scripted and everything. And so the person that is recording can actually only talk about things they know something about, but the clipping team can make sure that it's actually put together in a way that it still looks like, like likeliness, credibility, status, and power. And so that's why it's so important to actually have a kind of content infrastructure and not just reading off a script where you have to make sure you're ticking off all those things. And so from time-wise, it's really easy to just have a content system, content infrastructure. All right, so regarding those bricks of content, there's also another very interesting part in this video at minute 9:30 that we are going to watch right now.
Times they share similar values to you to a degree. Obviously, some people just go polar opposite from their parents. That's fine, but I'm talking in sweeping generalities for most people. This should at least explain or break down, like, why do parents have so much power over us? How do they have so much influence over our behaviors? You might not even want to listen to your parents. You might even like your parents, but you can still feel that you have to like resist their requests because you are so programmed based on these elements.
That's the exact thing. You just have to make sure that you're ticking them off, because the likeliness of them following through something that you tell them to do is much higher, all right?
Makes this a little bit more muddied is that sometimes one event can check multiple boxes. And so I'll give you a simple example. When we launched the book, we did 100 million plus in sales. That in and of itself, me having money from the event gives me status. Me saying, hey, you can launch stuff in this way gives me credibility, right? Because I show that I have an event, I have something that has happened as a result of me doing it that gives me third-party credibility. There's something that you can observe with your eyes, right? The reason that my ads do well when I have my $10 million building behind me is like, oh, well, that's hard to fake, right? And so you have credibility there. And so one event, like selling a company, can give you money, it can give you credibility. And then if I give people directions on how they can do things that are similar and then good things happen, then all of a sudden you get power. And then the last is likeness. I know I'm skipping.
And he says something that I don't even want to go into more detail, but something he indirectly tells you guys, and it's to literally go big, all right? He just said like people are going to literally trust him more because he's standing in front of his building. That's not easy to fake. He has a world record. He has all those crazy things. And even though Alex Hormozi's content would be just him recording with his phone, and for example, when you look at your competitor's content and it's not even good and it still performs and you wonder why, it's the exact same reason. Let me explain. So let's take some social media personal branding gurus, all right? Some of them don't even have the best social media optimized videos, all right? And they still perform even though they don't have a crazy hook, even though they have no script or no crazy background, and it still works. And it's because going big is always better than perfecting normal things. What do I mean with that? Let me explain. The reason, for example, you watch a video of Alex Hormozi, as he just told you, is because he has a lot of credibility. And if I watch a video, I will be smarter. I will just gain value from watching Hormozi's content, right? Because he has all those things you want to achieve. And so the reason you're watching this video right now is not because of me, but because of Alex Hormozi, because he already has those things and he already has achieved big things, all right? And you want to at least achieve a part of what he already has achieved. And so going big, or at least breaking something big down, is always going to help you more than having a perfect script or anything like that. And it's the same for you. If you don't get any views, if you don't get any followers or any sales, it's because you're not going big enough. And the thing is, you don't miss a crazy hook framework. You don't miss anything like that. You are not going big enough, all right? If you go, for example, if you're a fitness coach and you do 10,000 push-ups in 24 hours, that's already so big that even if you're just recording it on your phone, it still works. And that's also why people like Mino Lee, for example, are performing so well, all right? Because they do crazy shit. And the thing alone is already so cool that you're just interested in the topic itself. All right, so now we have covered a lot already, but now we're coming to the actually most important thing, and also the reason why I even decided to make this video. Because the part of Alex Hormozi's video is really great, but I think a lot of people won't understand it properly, and then a lot of people will also miss a lot of value. And so this is the main reason why I even made this video.
Exist for different kind of mental stereotypes. It's like, oh yeah, guy who loves barbecue and craft beers. Oh yeah, that's that archetype. I'm just gonna be that archetype. Or you've got like hipster bro who likes hipster shit, right? Or you've got, like just bro, right? You've got just like sure bro. And people somewhat put me in that status, but I also like for a few years was wearing like sandals that looked like really weird. And I wore those and that was not bro-y at all, but I wore them because they were super comfortable and I didn't have to like wear socks, which is a big thing for me. Anyways, the point is just like, I think what makes you unique is if you actually lean into the nuances that make you you and actually have a way to defend why you do what you do. Because most people don't even think about why they do what they do. And if you do things and you don't know why, it's because you're following someone else's directions for your life rather than your own. Weird. Like real.
And that is literally the most important thing, to be authentic and not to try to be someone else and not to fit into some picture that you have in the mind. As you said, be a hipster or be this running guy. Just be you. Because when you're just like trying to fit in, then you're literally just someone else. You're just someone else. You're not you. And Hormozi is like such a random guy, all right? He's so super fit, but he eats a lot of chipotle. He has a lot of things that when you have the big picture, you wouldn't think that this is the same person. But it still works so well because he just doesn't care and he gives you a lot of reasons why he is like that, all right? And so this is really important. And now the question is, how can we implement it into our content? Because first of all, we want to make a lot of content, all right? We want to make a lot of content because otherwise we can't really progress and it will just take us more time. We as business people, we as business owners, we don't have the time to actually sit there and script all the time. All right, and so how can we actually lean into the more authentic way? And it's again to have an infrastructure, all right? It's the literally most important thing. If you're still scripting every single day, recording, editing, or at least giving it to an editor and then just checking on him every single hour because you want to see the video, that's the worst thing you can do, all right? And so you have to have a system that allows you to be authentic. And so what you need to do is literally, or what we do at least, is just the client submitting us like a podcast, a recording, whatever it is, knowing he has to talk about those certain topics. And then my team just clips it up, knows, okay, this is the pain points we want to trigger, and then makes it social media ready. All right. And so the client can keep his authentic way. And this is so important because if this goes away, then there's nothing left. All right. And so we as a personal brand, we want to make sure that we actually relate to a lot of people. And if we lose the personal nuance, we don't talk normally, then that just goes away. All right. And that's why we have a content infrastructure that actually allows the client to be authentic, talk about their things, but also a team making sure that the SPCL is actually checked off, or at least 3 things. And at the same time that it's social media ready. And then the next part, Alex Hormozi is actually talking about the beauty of consistency, and it isn't just posting daily, and you'll see why.
That's the idea. And so live streaming provides that opportunity. Let's also think about this from a context of volume. Whether you like him or not, Rogan, tremendous influence, right? To the same degree, PBD, tremendous influence. Dave Ramsey, tremendous influence. What is it that these guys have in common? They're putting out hours of content every single day. So I said earlier that we had 35,000 pieces of content, right? I hear plenty of times, there's tons of $1 million businesses, $2 million businesses, things like that. They put out 1 piece of content a day, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's 365 pieces of content a year. And if you think about the size of acquisition.com in terms of our revenue, right? Compared to somebody who's doing $1 or $2 million a year, and they're doing 365 pieces of content, we're just quite literally doing 100 times more. And as a result of that 100 times the volume, what do you think's happening? We get 100 times the prospect. And so people want to try and outsmart themselves and thinking that they can not do the work that's required, but it's actually far more linear than you would expect. So we just know that 1 out of 10, shorts is going to go, is going to be a 2 or 3x outlier. We just know what that math looks like. Same thing for longs. How do I just jam as much into that input output machine as I possibly can? And as long as I'm checking these boxes, I'm making the right kind of content, then you're going to get the right kind of prospects.
Bro, And this is literally the most important thing. I said it before, but literally I just changed my mind again watching this, because that's the thing. A lot of people, a lot of personal brands coaches are telling you, oh, you have to have this kind of hook or anything. But the truth is, if you have the ability or if you have the systems in order to post consistent content, you don't need to rely on luck, all right? And as Alex Hormozi said it, if he is making sure that every single piece of content is checking off those things from the SPCL list, he knows that, like, for him at least, every 10th video is going viral. So if you post 10 videos a month, you have one video in his calculation going viral. But when you post at least daily, you have 3 times. And so you can just easily multiply the prospects you get in a month by just posting more. And that's the reason again why you need a content infrastructure, why you need a team, because you're not able to post daily with just making everything yourself. And especially Hormozi is doing a lot of more work because he has a team. He's obviously not creating 35,000 pieces of content himself, no. And he also has only 24 hours a day. He records and a team is doing the work behind him. And this is really important. Don't have too much ego thinking you can do everything you own. Hormozi is the smartest guy, but he knows that he also has that he has a team that he can train up and that also operate in his mind and that also are going to create better content for him. So don't rely on luck. Don't try to find the perfect hook. If you, as he always says, if you just have volume, it always neglects luck. And this is literally such an important thing. And this is, yeah, I mean, as long as you check off those things, you can't do anything wrong. And it's easy math. And there's no, it sounds so easy, but it's actually true. If you can pull a lot of videos in a day or in a month, it's the easiest way to outperform your competitors. Yeah, that's also why I stopped promising magic hook frameworks, but sell on the content system, because the math is there. The math is pretty easy, all right? If a client, for example, posts 10 videos a month and we just start posting 50, we just 5x his business, or at least his leads, by just doing simple math. And this is the most important thing I want you to, write down. And if you don't want to write it down, just have a look into the info description. I have an entire document where I break down the most important things of Alex Hormozi's videos, how to actually implement them, all those important things that I just talked about in this video. And if you have any kind of questions, just let me know on Instagram. It's the same name as here. And again, don't just watch those videos, actually implement them. That's the only reason this video exists, so you can easily implement those things. And otherwise, we see us in the next video. Keep crushing it. Peace.